everybody, I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps, and today I'm going to share with you a few tips for working with really long chains. Sometimes when you work with a very large project, you have to start with a very long chain. Sometimes it can be hundreds of stitches. That can be hard to count and keep track of. And it can also be hard if you're working in the round and you have to join this very long chain in the round without twisting it. So let's look at a couple of tips for making both of those scenarios easier. Very few things in crochet are worse than chaining hundreds and hundreds of stitches only to get to the end of your first row and find out that you didn't have enough chains, that you ran out. So here is a quick fix for that, and it's ridiculously simple. Make more chains. Here I've made probably about 10 more chains than I thought I would need, or actually I think I got 7, but make chains, do your whole first row, and when you get to the end, you can rip out the extra chains. So let me show you what that looks like. Suppose this was a blanket and I've gone all the way down and I've done my 200 stitches or whatever, and I've come back and here I've got the 5 or 6 extra chains I made. Okay, now I want to rip them out. It's very easy, and if I had made a slip knot, it would look like this. You can see my tutorial on working without a slip knot, but suppose I had made a slip knot. It will look like this. So you just unpick the slip knot, and then you start pulling out the chains, just like this. See where it's coming from, pull it out. It comes out really super easy, until you get right down to the stitch that you want to end at, which is this one. Now it's coming out from the bottom of the stitch I want, right? Do you see that? It's coming right out of the base of that stitch. So now I just pull it tight, and there I have my row without any extra chains and without running out of chains. So that way you don't have to be so perfect about your stitch count when you're making a very, very long chain. But now what if you have to join a very long chain in the round? Because that can be equally frustrating too, right? Because you don't want it to twist. So let me show you some tricks for doing that. One way to join your chain without twisting it is to join it when it's still very short. So this is only about 20 chains, give or take. And if I wanted to join this, there's 2 ways to do it depending on what kind of hook you're using. The first way, if you're using a hook that's not like this, if you're using a hook that is nice and thin all the way down, doesn't have an ergonomic grip on it or anything like that, you can actually just bring this tail up, and keeping everything nice and straight along the edge, you can bring that last stitch up and slide it onto the hook and bring it up from the back so that it rests right here behind this stitch. Now obviously that's not going to work on this chain, or on this hook, because of the ergonomic grip. There's no way I can get that stitch over without distorting it. So in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this hook, but when I do that, I want to hold this stitch in place. I don't want it to twist around, okay? I want to make sure this stitch stays in the same direction it's in now. So I'm holding it in place and removing my hook. Then I'm going to stick my hook in through that last chain, make sure my line is nice and straight, fold it back up, and then stick it in through this stitch. So that's the same as if I had taken that and slid it across from the end. It rests before this stitch now, and I've got a nice, smooth, perfectly even loop here. Okay, now I can ignore this completely and just keep chaining as much as I need to. I could chain 500 if I want to. Oh God, I hope not. But I could. And when I'm all done, to join it, all I have to do is pull my last chain through the first one. And now I have this perfectly joined, even, flat loop, no matter how long it is. There's one thing I don't like about joining your foundation chain, and that is that you can't adjust it later. That method I showed you earlier of making extra chains doesn't work when it's joined. So my preference is actually not to join the foundation chain at all. I like to work my first row, whatever that is, all the way across and then do the join. And you can do this with literally any stitch pattern. I'm going to do just some double crochets across and then show you how that works. Okay, I worked some double crochet, and now suppose I've come to the end and this is how many stitches I wanted, and I'm ready to join in the round. Well, first I have to unpick my extra chains. This is where that trick from before helps. So I just start pulling it out where the yarn's coming from, just like this. Until I get to where it's coming out of the bottom of my current stitch, and then I just tighten. Now I have my first row, but it was supposed to be a round, correct? I was supposed to have joined this? Well, it's much easier to join this. Suppose it was very long. It's much easier to join this and keep it straight than it would have been to join just the chain and keep it straight. So I got to use my trick of removing chains, and now I get to join my first round. So I find the beginning of my round, I make sure everything's nice and straight, and I just join like I would normally join my round. And you say, well, what about this gap at the bottom? Well, that's where your tail comes in. So take your hook out of your stitch for a minute, and let's use this tail to join the bottom of this round together. Now I want it to look a little bit like a slip stitch, so I'm going to come in under both bars of the bottom of this stitch, which was this turning chain, right? So I'm going to come in that bottom chain, and I'm going to pull this tail yarn through. Okay, and that brings it around like that. Now I'm going to go back into this stitch over here, and I'm going to pull the tail yarn through the other way. Pull it through like that. So you can see I've made a little V shape, right? And now when I tighten it up, there you go. It's joined here, and when you sew it in, you won't even see it. So my chain is joined here, and my first round is joined here, all without any fuss of twisting chains. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, or leave me a comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more great videos. Thanks for watching.